Message from the book Green Light by André Luiz, psychographed by Francisco Cândido Xavier. Message 36. Issues of criticism. Try to keep silent when you are unable to help. The private life of others belongs to them, not us. We should understand that everybody else's mistake today could be our mistakes tomorrow. Whilst on the pathway of improvement on earth, we will all carry human beings' defects. The time we spent criticizing could be spent doing useful things. Every time we criticize somebody about their work, we are morally obliged to do better than him. Remember that any time or given situation, the opportunities, point of view, interests, feelings, and education of others are very often very different from ours. Criticizing does not help, as the work of the person is what shows his value. He who loves helps, forgives always. If you do not know the person as a particular situation, just bless it. Remember, very often, a hammer is just enough to destroy what took centuries to build.
Dear God, we are very happy to be here and very grateful to be here among friends one more time for the study of the Spirit's book. Please help us to have an open mind and open heart to discuss all the teachings and to apply them to our lives. Please help us to be kind and to forgive. So be it.
Welcome to all of us, incarnates and all of those in the spirit who are also with us as we carry on our study of the Spirit's book, and we are coming to the end of the conclusion. That means the end of the book. And that does not mean the end of our studies. Just in case you think, oh my God, it's over now. We need to go over and over again for us to carry on our learnings. Myself and all of us, this is the learning process. So as we're coming to the end of the conclusion of the Spirit's book is based on all the teachings that we were presented throughout the 1019 questions, is a summary. And of course, we need to go through and over again. But today, probably we are coming to the end. We finished last week on this slide, I think. And as always, we do go through and read it for us to situate ourselves and bear in mind that our studies with the participation of all of us, bringing our own points of views, our ideas, so that we all cooperate for a higher and healthy psychosphere, spiritually speaking, that we all can learn and benefit ourselves and those also brothers and sisters in humanity who have been brought here, who have been following us, but also in the process of learning. So let's start here then. Barbara, would you like to read the first one for us, please?
However, there is no authentic Spiritist who, after having adopted the great moral maxims taught by the Spirits, could ever desire evil or wish evil upon a neighbor. Whatever their difference of opinion, if any such school is in error, sooner or later it will be enlightened if there is good faith and an absence of prejudice. While they wait, all schools possess a common bond that should unite them in the same thought.
Okay, let's explore together this slide for us to accommodate our thinking where we are today and where we carry on. So when we read, when we heard, what is coming to our minds? How do we, as immortal beings, as beings who are in evolution, that means that our thinking also evolves. But today, how is that coming to us? What do we get for our learning here? Which point is important in our individual, unique process? What's the main point here for our learnings?
The great maxims of the moral teachings, it's the part where it says, once we get to a point where we really understand the Spirit's teaching, we no longer wish harm towards anyone, regardless of whether they're right or wrong, they're doing good or evil. Our intention is to promote goodness, and I think that's the first step of love, isn't it? And it's what the spirits are teaching us. That's what all this knowledge is for, eventually, to soften our hearts.
Correct. Anybody else? According to our own unique words, how would that be? Is allowed to think aloud. How would we express? Because sometimes the different ways that we express ourselves also helps different spirits who are with us also study. For me also, what touched a lot is the greatest moral maxim, because the greatest aspect of Spiritism, the core, the center is love, which Jesus came to teach us. And when we learn to love ourselves in that way as a free choice, because we need to stimulate the faculty of freedom given by God in a responsible way, knowing that if we learn to love ourselves, and love means following internally the laws of God within, therefore we will not do any harm around, and we will gradually and more to respect ourselves and respect others. And also, if we do any harm, because we are learning, we will take responsibility immediately, and we will remedy in the best that we can at the moment, because that is part of self-awareness. Yeah.
What is the difference of wishing evil on a neighbor and not agreeing the way someone acts? Because I may not wish evil, but if I don't agree with the way someone is acting, I might automatically think, have a lot of negative thoughts towards this person, which is
The neighbor.
evil. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference?
So what is the difference? So if I immediately don't agree of what someone says, and following what you said, I start with my internal articulation, mentally speaking negative, whatever goes on, I am leaving the maxim of the moral law. I am right, therefore. So I'm expanding my inner evil. Is that making sense? Translating it, I'm expanding my inner evil. Because the evil that we need to fear is the internal one, not the outside. We always picture things and people outside as we are internal. So when I go on criticizing others internally, even if I don't express it, or if I do, but that is the extension of the internal evil. Yes. Can we disagree from others? Yes. But that means that I carry on criticizing them? Is that the only way? That perhaps is the only way that I learned. But now that we learn here, what is the other way?
It's the way that you taught us, and also the medium Isabel also talks about when they asked her a question, how do we stop talking badly or doing badly? It's exactly the question that Cynthia just asked, just in different words. And she explains that the process is gradual, so we start by our thought process. Because usually, or how we're feeling. So we're feeling negatively, watch what we're thinking, we'll stop. We won't say what it is that we're thinking. And it will get to a point where we start
to be vigilant.
To be more vigilant of what we're saying, but we're still thinking it. And then it will get to the point where we don't say it anymore, we're thinking about it, but now we start not to feed into the ideas that are coming of criticism. Because they're going to come and we're immediately going to stop that. And slowly that's going to become automatic and go into the emotional level where we're going to see it, and it's not going to affect us emotionally. We're going to be able to analyze things critically with cold criticism and say, well, no, that's not right. But it's not going to hurt us, it's not going to make our hearts palpitate and seeing or hearing something that is against our understanding. But I think it's a really gradual process.
Okay.
And the first one starts with assuming responsibility.
Okay, and when you said you start with our thoughts and feelings, is there anything before that? Are you following me, Cynthia? Hello? Is there anything before? No? What is before us to become aware of our thinking and feeling? Even easy. Everybody's looking at me if I were speaking in Japanese. Would it be right in saying that helps us really to bring ourselves back to the core of ourselves, an immortal spirit? The first thing that we need to do to rescue ourselves is bringing the focus back to the center, the core of ourselves. I'm an immortal being. Therefore, I'm responsible for what I think, what I feel. Now I carry on to do this self-awareing process. As a mortal being, that helps us immediately to bring to the core, the center of our lives, which always will be the love that comes from God. And based on that now, I start to evaluate what I'm thinking, if that corresponds to the core aim of my life, which is to educate myself or ourselves in our thinking according to God's laws, or according to the law of love, or according to the universal laws. If my thinking is evil, of course, that is not in accordance. Then I'm having the opportunity in the present to re-educate myself. What does it mean? To give a different meaning to that old thought, to bring a new one up. Is that making sense? And the emotion the same, because some people we are not copy-paste. Some people notice themselves more, firstly, on the thinking level. Other people notice them more on the emotional level. Doesn't matter. Or we all need to go within and see where is the first will that I can observe myself. If it's emotion, go for that. Again, if I feel anger against my neighbor, that is not coming from the natural law. That is not coming from law. That is mine, old me, which the universe is giving me the opportunity now to promote me. But I, as a mortal being, as a spirit, need to be aware that what I think, what I feel is my history, and I can change that. Why can we change that? But it's so hard, Evanisi. I cannot change it. Is that true? Why not?
The Spirit says it's minimal efforts.
The Spirit say, do we believe? Do we? Why is it possible for us to change? It doesn't matter in which intensity or old belief systems or old emotional responses pop up. Why still is it possible for us to change? Hello? Is everyone alive here? Are we speaking questions? Come on, wake up, be alive. The disincarnate is okay, I cannot hear them. But incarnate. Are you lost with my questions? Learn to be focused. What was the question about? Reframe my question now.
Why is it possible to change? And why is it not difficult? And I think everyone is able to change because we're here for that. But say, why is not so difficult? It depends on each one, because you can see in the light of immortal beings and say, oh, I have been in the path and have been worse than I am now, so I can do small changes. But I don't think it's easy. I still think it's
okay. How about this side here? What is coming up here? The same. No. In this room here, that's not possible. Come on, express yourself in your way. What do you mean the same according to your own words? No, even is here.
Because I was reading this, and I'm not an authentic spiritist because I find it very difficult for certain people. If not getting along well means desiring evil, then if I think and these negative thoughts, I get into this loop means. This is why I was worried, because we study so much, spend so much time studying, and then on a daily basis I can't stop thinking negatively about the person.
So what is that about? We are studying centuries and centuries. We studied that on Monday. For how long are we studying already the natural laws? More than 2,000 years. Really? Yes. So why are we not living accordingly? Following your question, why not? Because it's not possible to change. Why? It's not so. I go back to my old question. Why is it possible for us to change despite of the intensity of our evil or our shadows? Why is it possible? First, is it possible?
Yes.
Why? Spiritists need to know why. Why is it possible? That's easy. just want to focus. Why is that easy? Because we are immortal beings created by God. Why is it possible to change old habits? Because we are children of God. We have been created by God, and we bring all the faculties and abilities for change within. What is lacking? Willpower. Stimulation. Willpower. To stimulate the willpower to be better. To choose to change. Because the change will not come from the outside. Otherwise, we carry on centuries and centuries coming back and going back to the spiritual world, but we don't change our habits. But we all can do that as long as we focus on the greatest essence of life, which is the moral, ethical aspect, which summarizes in love. And then going back to the question that Cynthia made, in this process that we are all unique and we still are learning on a planet, trials and expiations, that means what? No one is perfect. It started with whom? Me. Does that make sense? From that departure point, I'm in the right place, according to my evolution. Otherwise, I would be in a celestial world. No, I'm not there. I'm here in a perfect world because I am imperfect. We are all imperfect. Therefore, now I'm studying, and I choose now to re-educate myself. So when I'm on daily basis as a mortal being, notice that I'm criticizing others mentally or verbally, even if I don't verbalize it, but mentally is a communication. What I am invited to do with that. Carry on.
If you notice already, your thinking like that is better than before, because normally we don't pay attention to what we think.
So previously I was unconscious.
Yes.
I was doing it blindly and guided by all the spirits in the same level. Evil. Evil with evil. No, we are here now to free ourselves and to expand the light within. So evil, we understand, are our own shadows, and we don't need to be ashamed of them. We don't need to be guilty. We don't need to be blaming ourselves. God created us with love and wants us to learn to love ourselves. So when I notice what I'm invited to do, are you here? Yeah. So what do? I really don't like this person, whatever they said, but I don't like it. I don't know why they behave in that way. I really don't know what to do with that. Shut down. What? The ego state of mind. And shutting down doesn't mean to be aggressive, but simply means to be assertive. Because of the strength of the old me. Is that making sense? And then I shut down, what do? It's boiling within. What do? Is that the way that it happens? And what do?
Normally, I try to do something else that elevates my mind, something good. I put some music or read something or try to do something that don't keep on that thought, because if you don't put another focus, you're going to start again. So would I be right in saying that when we realize then shut down our ego, because it's us, remember when we said we observe ourselves as immortal beings, everything that I feel and think is my responsibility, therefore I became attentive to what I was thinking, stop, and now I choose to re-educate myself, to think in a different way. I need to learn to rescue myself from myself, if not from others. Rescue myself from myself. Hey, my goal is to learn to love, is to learn to follow the right pathway of goodness. Rescue myself from myself, the old me and the new me, as we say. My proposal, which we just have a couple of seconds that we are training ourselves, comparing the centuries of experience that we had on the old me. Is that making sense? The new aspects that we are learning here, that is quite recent in terms of training on the practical level. On the intellectual level, not, because we have centuries there. But literally, that is a recent choice. So we need to be aware that the old me, that means the old conditions were very strong, merely because they have been repeated. Now we have ownership, and each time that we have ownership of what we think and feel, we diffuse around 50% of the pressure that the ego makes.
So you can feel like the conversation as well. Okay, well, looking at myself, I'm imperfect. First bringing the focus back to me. Because sometimes it's the idea is I wouldn't do that myself. That's where the judgment is. But who knows if I hadn't already done that or I haven't already been like that. So because I was talking about we can't really exercise humbleness, but we can exercise simplicity. So to be a bit more simple, is this making sense? This whole process is to really realize that actually I'm not perfect and I'm not anybody to be judging others, and then the focus changes from the outside to the inside.
It has to come inside. And humility is part that we need to learn, because what is difficult in making this changing process for all of us is pride and selfishness that we bring. We have that answer in our question in the spiritual. So now simplicity goes along with humbleness, and there is no humbleness without simplicity. And what does it mean, simplicity? To go with mine Avayanas everywhere. That's simplicity. These days it's not, because it's quite expensive. So it is helping us to really change the internal world. I repeat again, when we try to take responsibility, and quite often the responsibility can activate the old aspects of I need to obey because of pride. We haven't learned responsibility from a deep loving way means internal choices, internal autonomy of choosing freely to make different choices now. But it's always rescuing us for us when we criticize, as you said, well, if I were, how did you say? If I were the other person, I wouldn't do that. Is that judgment? Is that the exercise of love? It depends on our intentions, but usually it comes already from the criticism already. Well, how do I think instead? Instead of if I were that person, I wouldn't do that.
I think we need to start to see the other as brother and sister.
So I would tell to myself, because it's my belief system that I'm holding, if I were that person, I wouldn't do that. Then immediately I rescue myself from myself and I stand up on a certain way and I say, well, now even easy, but you are learning that everyone is unique and people do what they do. And Jesus is inviting me to learn and respect them all as they are, as he's doing with me for more than 2,000 years. Is that a different articulation internally? Very different. That brings us back to the greatest moral maxim. So the revision of our thinking. Cynthia, did we get anywhere with your question?
Yes.
Where are you now? How would you answer that with your words?
No, I think the problem with me is I go from one extreme to the other extreme, because if I hate, then if I realize no, I shouldn't hate someone, and I become a bit submissive, and it just goes against what I'm feeling, and then this comes
in circle. Quite often, because we all have trained ourselves very little in the balanced way. We all, most of the time, have been on the, let's say, wrong pathway, eluded by pride and selfishness, and now we want to really freely to move forward as a free choice. But we haven't learned to be here, where we usually go extremely opposite. And now we notice that, which already is an advancement, and now consciously we help ourselves to notice when we are here or here, and help us to bring to the center gradually through self-awareness. Is that making sense? Okay. Then we go on here. Danusa, would you like to read the next one for us, please?
All of them have the same objective. The course they take matters little, provided it leads to this objective. No school should impose its opinion through material or moral force. The one that anathematizes another would be on a false path, for it would obviously be acting under the influence of evil spirits. Reason must always be the last argument, and moderation will better ensure the triumph of the truth than diatribes full of poison, of evil and jealousy. Good spirits preach only unity and love for one's neighbor, and a malevolent or uncharitable thought could never proceed from a pure source.
Okay, let's explore that now. Perhaps we go through, as we always do, at the beginning, phrase by phrase, then we go deeper, isn't it? So if you take the first one, which has been read, all of them have the same objective. The course they take matters little, provided it leads to this objective. All of them Who they mean? The spirits, all of us. Why is that? Because we are all created by God, we are all children, so therefore the laws are equal within each one of us. Therefore, the process sooner or later we will achieve all of them. No school should impose its opinion through material or moral force, and the one that anathematized another would be on a false path, for it would obviously be acting under the influence of evil spirits. How do we understand this phrase now? What comes to our minds? How would we say it with our own words? Are there schools on earth that impose their own opinions? Yes or no?
Yes.
It's difficult to have the incarnates to talk today. I'm trying my best, God. Yes, it is. What does Spiritism teaches us in relation to this?
Because the teachings come from within, once we really learn them. So it's not about imposing, nobody can feed it into us. But what the spirits help to do is to stimulate the knowledge that is already within us, because we already know the laws of God. It's inscribed within us. So it's activating them. So it's not about using any sort of force. And religions that do, or any schools of thought that do use force, is an evident sign of ignorance, of cruelty, because one of the divine laws is freedom, the law of freedom, and allowing the spirit to freely choose to seek its own improvement, and just being there as the guidance is the purpose.
Okay. Anybody else? How would we say it? How is that coming to us, that phrase? Where are you, Cynthia?
I believe that in regards to imposition through moral force, will it be some sort of manipulation?
Manipulation, imposition. I think when we are honest with ourselves, as we are studying here today, we all went through that already throughout centuries. If we are humble enough to recognize that, yes. And now we are here within Spiritism, which is the teaching of Jesus, presented in a new way, but referring to the old teachings. Now we are learning to respect and love each other, because the greatest commandment is love one another. How can we love when we impose our ideas on others? When we study history, when we study religions throughout time, we will realize it was a more controlling process, an imposition based on pride and selfishness and personal interests. So now we are here to learn to understand that every spirit, I say spirit, another spiritist, spirit, have been created by God, simple and ignorant. And did it work when we look back that through imposition someone changes? It doesn't. We may obey because they don't know, we are ignorant, or we fear because a lot of imposition was used in the past in order to fear people, and we have this even today still. So now we are here to learn to respect each other, and Spiritism itself is not about to impose anything to anyone. Spiritism is the teaching of Jesus, which brings the word of God, and is presented in a free way that we, immortal beings, choose to use our faculty of freedom that God gave to us, which so far we haven't been able to use it quite wisely. But we came back now to exercise our free will according to God's will, according to God's law, according to the law of love, therefore freely choosing to study and to practice it. Is that making sense? Is that clear? Mm-hmm. Because in freely choosing, what do we do with us? Is it easy for us to freely choose to follow the right pathway?
Most definitely not.
Do spirits influence our lives? Much more than you think. So much so, they are guiding our lives. So the question would be, who I am allowed to guide me? Those who are in front of me or those who are behind me? That is the training of discernment and training to develop real freedom. Because to do what I want, that is not freedom. It's only freedom when we free from within, where the natural laws are, and we train ourselves from within according to them. Is that making sense to you? Yeah? Are we okay with that phrase? Can we move on to the next one? Reason must always be at last the last argument, and moderation will better ensure the triumph of the true than the diaprites. How is that word? Did I say it correct?
I think so, yeah.
Diaprites, full of the poison of envy and jealousy. How can we translate this?
Yeah, I really like that, because when we look at the examples that we have in the literature and the spirit to demonstrate to us real moral, they don't argue with those below and those behind. They don't argue with them. They simply are. And then when the spirit comes and says, yeah, but you're this, you're that, usually they'll say, you're right, I most probably was. And to have that strength to use that not as a manipulation, to honestly say, well, actually, yeah, you're probably right about all the defaults you're talking about me, but now I'm choosing to be this way and that. That's the real moral strength. Whereas when we try to argue and rationalize and use every sort of resource that we have to try to impose our idea to change that being, we don't touch their hearts. And it's we see that as examples everywhere, and it's really interesting because it's changing the belief systems, isn't it?
Yes, within. And why do we try to manipulate others?
Because we're trying to manipulate ourselves.
Because it's coming from a manipulative aspect within us. Because otherwise, if we already go through the process and eliminating those shadows, we will not have that need anymore. That is what the Enlightened Spirits are teaching us. This is why when they are accused by the ignorance, they are not affected by. They don't have the need to respond to defend themselves. Only when yes, Jesus is our model. He always did that. And the superior beings also who have been on earth or are on earth, those who are more in front of us, those who are more enlightened, and not because they have been, let's say, given any special faculty, because they promoted themselves in that way. They overcame more and more their shadows through the inner resolution. They are not bothered about those who are behind. Because we are focused on what we saw previously. We, or everyone, is chosen to live according to the greatest moral maxim.
Because if you think, the conscious heart asked Jesus to defend himself. Please defend yourself. I want to help you. What did the Lord do?
All of them were, when we read, even the lady there who was about to be killed, and the son said, please, mom. He said, shut your mouth. He said, oh my God. Yes, that is moral strength. Because she was so certain, she has such a strong faith in what was going on, in her belief, that she gave the moral lesson to her child. And she went through whatever she needed to go through. Are we okay with that? Are we already practicing that? What do we think? Little by little. Believe me, we can do it, as I explained previously in the beginning, merely because we are children of God. We bring the divine power within us, as long as we want to overcome our egoistic state of mind. And that is precisely what we are here in this whole earth. Is that okay? Anybody else? We haven't heard much about this side here. No? Yes. Good spirits preach only unity and love for one's neighbor, and a malevolent or uncharitable thought could never proceed from a pure source. So do we know where and how to reach higher spheres in the scale of evolution? Hello? Is a question? Do we know?
Yes. We're educating our thoughts.
Good spirits preach only unity. They never disturb the work of Christ. They never separate. They never create disturbances, because they bring that unity with God within already. We can only promote that when we have developed that unity with God. What else do they say? Unity and love for one's neighbors. What do we understand? For one's neighbor. Is the one who lives close to my flat? Is that the one my neighbor? You're so quiet. Come on.
That means that everyone's neighbors means everyone's near to you, nearby to everyone's.
So everyone that we come in contact.
Yes.
Precisely. On the physical level? As well. What do you mean?
Because we have beings, they're all interconnected with us.
Yeah.
We're connected by affinity of our past, of our goals in the future, of where we are right now. So being charitable with every being that is interconnected through our thoughts, through our feelings, and whether they're incarnate, whether they're not, they're going to manifest themselves.
Precisely.
And how is it that I'm going to be manifesting my love then?
Yes, and now let's imagine I'm having a negative thought, but I don't know if it's mine or it's the spirit. What do I do?
It doesn't matter if it's mine or the spirit.
Why doesn't matter?
It's my responsibility. The thought is mine.
Okay.
It's me, so I'm holding the thought. That's where I'm empowered, because I can't change others.
Okay.
I can change myself.
Okay.
I'm noticing the thoughts. I'm most probably attracted to that because of my state of spirit, and it's my responsibility to change it.
Okay. So it's not important if it's mine or not, because what is important to me is to learn to discern what is good. And if the thought is negative, for sure, doesn't matter if it's mine or not. Redirect, rescue myself, change then and then on the right pathway. Because otherwise we can get confused. And then we waste time and energy, and then we got into this circle. Oh my God, is it right? No. Is it according to the natural law? The law of God? If not, doesn't matter if it's mine or not. Stop and change. Then we are rescuing ourselves. Are we okay with that?
So if your neighbor is removing your favorite thought in the next neighbor's garden every week, should you just accept, or should you move his bin and also?
Well, I guess it depends where the situation. But it could also be that the universe is inviting me to practice here what I'm studying. Then I go there and take the bean and put it back. What I'm training for myself in doing that. What I am as a mortal being training within myself in doing that. My neighbor is taking my bean and putting it on the other side of the building. And I go there and take it, put it back. But in a loving way. Because I can do it. No, in a loving. What I am training with myself. Patience, for sure. What else? What? Forgiveness, tolerance, respect towards myself and my neighbor. Training through respect to elaborate the real love within myself. Self-control, correct? Self-control. So we are overriding our memories from our previous experiences. And of course, I'm just in general giving an example. It depends on each situation.
Because I think sometimes acceptance doesn't mean you allow something to carry on. If you are coming from a place of peace and acceptance, you can move their bin outside to address the balance. Because if they don't do it to you, they will do it to someone else.
Yes.
I don't have a situation where someone's doing that
Yes.
to me. No, I'm just saying it doesn't always mean you take it.
No, it depends.
You have to address it from a peaceful place.
Yes, from a centered way. Yes.
They're doing something bad,
Yes.
but it's not.
Could also be one of the options that we would, from this peaceful place, talk to them, or talk to him or her, whatever it is. Or depending on the situation, we can talk to the council, or whatever, whatever. It depends on each situation. But the main point is that we would come from a peaceful inner state, a loving, not a hateful. Why is he doing that? We don't know. Why I'm so angry with him? That is my problem. Yeah?
This exactly the same thing happened to me.
With the bin?
Yeah, exactly the same thing. And the first time I took back, the second time as well. And then I said, I need to learn something with this situation. So I left. They took it and said, I don't care anymore. And another bin appeared in my house. So I said, okay, yeah. I don't know what was, who did that, but I was just making me nervous, stressful and everything. And then when I leave and say, I don't care anymore, a new bin appeared there. So I said, okay.
Quite often when we learn our lessons, not saying that it's obvious, but when we do what we're supposed to do, because we need to learn to be intelligent. You know what I mean? Are you getting me? When we are intelligent, we know that nothing happens for no reason. Yeah? The universe is always trying to promote us. The question is if we are intelligent to be willing to be promoted. So even the beings around the home are instruments of the universe. Learn to love, expand in love. And then we just take, well, you know what, I'll just take this being good back. And then the next day or next week, things are different. Because we always attract the lessons that we need, precisely what we need. And when we learn the lesson, they disappear. It's not these things. Are you okay, Cynthia?
I think every situation is unique, however.
Yeah.
Just because you reach your God doesn't mean that in any situation.
The main point is not the outside movement, my dear friends. The major point in life when we are learning about to develop the real love within, which is the major element in our evolution, is nothing to do with the outside. It is where we are internally in relation to this world. So the beings could be a great universal instrument to help me to overcome myself, or whatever it is. It's always to focus what comes up internally when we are in relation to situation A, B, or C, because that shows where we are. And this is what I said, and learn to be intelligent. What is the universe asking me to learn? Because when we connect with that internal power, which is the self-level onwards, the essence, the sacred aspect of us, we will immediately find a solution that brings peace or comes from a peaceful place. Is that making sense?
I think acceptance can be very misunderstood if it's not, like you said, coming from inside. It's self-awareness. It can be misunderstood very easily what acceptance is.
Yeah.
You see the situations all the time, and they're not intelligent because they don't help the situation.
Mm-hmm.
They may not make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make it better.
We also learn in learning to be intelligent that we are not on earth to change others. We are here to change ourselves. And when we change ourselves within love, others, we impact others. That is a challenging process for us, that we are emerging for centuries and centuries of telling others what to do. So be the change that you would like others to be, teaches delighting spirits. Is that making sense? And in that way, again, when we connect with that inner space that we all bring already, that is easy to relate with external. It becomes secondary. But when we are connected with the ego, everything outside us becomes huge, big.
Because I think the ego is that you are the center of the universe, and if something happens to you, then your ego is no, that shouldn't happen to me, so I have to do something. I think we are most of us are guided with the ego.
We still are quite instinctive.
I think first and everything is otherwise.
We're still quite instinctive, we are quite reactive, we are quite controlling, we are very strong in telling others what to do and very weak for us to make the change within. But it's part of our pathway. So this is why I go back again, learn to be intelligent. Doesn't matter if other people don't do it. What matters for me, that I'm building my new or carrying on building my destiny, that I choose this time to bring myself each time back to the center of myself, which is God within. Yeah? Is that making sense? Okay. Did we go up to the end? Did we? Yes? Okay, then we carry on now. In order to conclude, let us hear the counsels of St. Augustine's spirit concerning this subject. Would you like to read it, Tiago, for us, please?
For a long time, humans have torn at one another and have anathematized one another in the name of God, of peace and of mercy, offending God through such sacrilege. Spiritism is the bond that will someday unite them, for it will show them where the truth is and where the error lies. For some time to come, however, they will continue to be scribes and fighters who will then deny as they deny Christ.
Mm-hmm. What are we getting now here? When we start at the beginning, for a long time, humans have torn at one another and have anathematized one another in the name of God, of peace and of mercy. Is that our past? It still unfortunately happens these days. And why is that happening? Because God is love. And we are creatures created by God with love. So why are we still? We still are lacking love. We have intelligence, but we are not intelligent. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
We have centuries and centuries of knowledge. Blah, 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 we say. But when it comes on daily basis, we don't forgive. The neighbor shouldn't be doing whatever. Or my husband, my wife, or whatever, as we studied on Monday. When Claudette thought my husband is not putting the dishes in the right place in the washing. So everything irritates us. So now we need to know, oh my God, okay. Forgive myself. Forgiving is part of loving ourselves. Each time we breathe in, breathe through, back to the center, and interact with experience in a different way, as a free choice. Because we are here to learn to develop our freedom with responsibility. The faculty of freedom we develop as we develop responsibility. And that we develop the internal autonomy. Does that make sense? Do you want to say something?
No, just, you know, what you say.
Sorry?
You are intelligent but not using intelligence. You have intelligence but not using. That's true. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Each time when we are acting against God's laws, we are not intelligent.
I think most of the people just try to find a way to act against the God's law. They just try to find a way to not be catch, and they try to be smart or things like that. They just don't accept that.
Accepting that I'm wrong requires humbleness. But without humbleness, I will not move from my pride where I'm crystallized for centuries. And understanding now that I'm not on earth, I have the last word of ignorance. Let's complement it. Because when we are in that state of mind, it's ignorance, shown publicly. I'm here to learn to love myself and understand that humbleness or humility is not like what I understood in the past week. When we were full of pride and selfishness, we understood humbleness as weakness. Now we are learning with the greatest man in the universe, Jesus, telling us humbleness is inner strength and the greatest strength of the soul. So we are revising, renewing our concepts. Is that making sense?
Because the concept of humbleness is, for the word, they think so you are weak and full when you be humbless. Most of the people, they want to have the last word, they are selfish, they want to command, should be in my way, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they spend a lot of energy and stress on that.
And spend a lot of existences on that. Up to the point that they wake up. If it's not through love, we need to pray, to learn. There is another way. Because then Miramis teaches us the greatest honor for every spirit, child of God, is to honor God. What God wants me to do, to complain about others or to love each other? Then it's easy when we learn in that way. The greatest honor is to be loyal to God. And that means learning to be loyal within, because we bring God's laws within already. That's the greatest honor. And when we connect with that, because we are all training and exercising ourselves, a lot of situations we will not waste any second of our vital energy to complaining or discussing about things. We will follow the enlightened beings, how they behaved and how they are behaving. And we are training ourselves in that way. And then we become stronger. Each time that we silence the ego and allow ourselves to be in evidence, we are becoming stronger from within. Even if people think that we are silly. And you're not defending yourself. Everyone is criticizing themselves. I'm not here to criticize people. I'm here to learn, train, and love. But they do is that process. Inner independence. That is exercise the real freedom from within. And I don't need to say anything to anyone outside. That is developing the ability of inner freedom, where we, even knowing that people are criticizing ourselves, we are free to say something, and we get on. No. To disarm ourselves. When we choose to learn to love, because we are all in the learning process, we will naturally choose to disarm ourselves. Are we okay here?
Yes, I mean, it's not what you do, it's the spirit you do it.
Sorry?
It's not what you do or don't do, it's in the spirit you do.
It is in the essence, because I can be very critical without opening my mouth. It is internal. Even critical outside with others, there is only distinction actually of who I am as a mortal being. And even I may be unconscious of that, and other people may see my imperfections through my behavior. But even if I don't say that, and it still is going on internally, that also shows that those are mind references, mind shadows.
And you know, this process of criticizing, it's hurtful for the person that does it themselves. You see people suffering with inner criticism, as well as affecting the ambience that they're in. And I notice it out of mediumship, maybe, I don't know what it is. It's very extensive, that feeling of you being criticized. You feel that energy. It's horrible energy to feel. But now when I start reflecting, it's like, this is something painful for the person that's emanating it. To emanate criticism towards others, it's toxic. Okay?
It is a process of self-intoxication, and it feels horrible. Because when we decodify the words or the references on a cognitive level in energy, it means heavy, dense energy. Which if I'm the person who criticizes us, I need to live with that. And it's toxic, and it can even lead to illnesses. Because it will deteriorate my psychological and emotional dimension, and therefore also we will attract my ill mind, we will attract other ill minds, and I need to deal with all the energy that comes from them and my own.
It's sad because sometimes you see really good people that just can't get out of that cycle, isn't it? The intention is there. I had a friend years ago who told us, I don't want to bring children to this world because this is such a bad world. And then she kept on talking about how everything was bad, and you could see her deteriorating internally rather than having that acceptance of where we are and what our responsibility is in doing this. So it's definitely something we could address more, isn't it?
We need to talk more about, and we need to empower ourselves more as children of God, and we all bring within the possibility to change. But we need to train our willpower. We need to exercise our free will. We need to learn to be responsible. Because when we are in a victim position, it's very easy to just let out and talk. We think we are complaining about the world, about people, but in reality, we are complaining about ourselves. And as you mentioned, and we know, we are the ones who are suffering with the consequences of that. And again, within Spiritism, we never think alone. The way that we think, the way that we feel, we are connected with other spirits. But we are the ones who need to cope with the energy field of that. If it's hate and anger, whatever it is, be prepared for the psychological and emotional conflicts. Because I'm invited by the natural laws to deal with who I am. And if I don't enter into the responsibility way, then that can drain to my physiology through illnesses. Is that making sense? So all of us, we are invited to learn to be our own doctors. Is that making sense? As Jesus taught us. Own doctors mean re-educate ourselves on a mental level as we are. There was law of forgiveness. Silence the disturbance internally. Learn to take responsibility. Responsibility is internal control, is internal autonomy from the divine part of us. Again, if we are on the horizontal level of life and very prideful, we feel, oh my God, he or she is talking about me, but we are in this low sphere. We are here in this planet, precisely we have aspects to rescue ourselves from ourselves, not from others. There is the opportunity to stand up and say, this time I'm learning to be loyal to myself in relation to God. Because he, through his mercy, granted me the possibility to come back to this cool earth for me to learn to love myself more. Because then I don't need to defend myself from other people. I respect them. Is that making sense?
Even you see people that are unconscious of these patterns, seeing them in the right light affects them, you know, instead of pitying them, you see them in the right light.
Always, always. As we see ourselves as immortal beings essentially of goodness, doesn't matter what we did in the past. We need to depart to create that healthy reference within us. When we develop that, we also see the others in the same way. Exactly as Jesus is doing with us for more than 2,000 years. And then we don't feel offended anymore. We become independent psychologically and emotionally. It doesn't mean indifferent, independent. I don't have control about other things and talks about me. It's their issue. If they tell goodness, good for them. If they are gossiping, worse for them. But I choose to follow the right pathway because God, our Father and loving Father, gave us that autonomy that despite whatever goes outside us, we internally can activate that inner freedom of doing good, of thinking good, of feeling good, insisting goodness. despite all. Is that making sense? Yeah? We finished here, then we go to the last bit. Would you like to know which spirits influence the various sects that divide the world? Judge them by their deeds and by their principles. Good spirits have never instigated evil. They have never concealed or condoned murder or violence. They have never aroused party hatreds, the thirst for wealth, or the greed for earthly things. Only persons who are good, humane, and benevolent, those all are their favorites, as they are also Jesus' favorites, for they follow the path shown by Jesus to reach him. How do we translate this?
Simplicity.
Simplicity? What else?
Humble.
Humbleness?
Humbleness.
Mm-hmm.
People follow the humbleness.
Mm-hmm.
And evil spirits, I think so. These people want to control everything, don't have the last word, command their others. That's kind of against of the gospel.
Yes. So how do we know if we are in this dimension? Are we still evil sometimes?
Yeah.
Of course. Thank God who knows already that. But who says, no, I'm not? Be aware. Take the veil down. What is evil?
Everything contrary to
Gossipy, as we said, because a lot we talk globally, but we know that what does it mean on the behaviors on a daily basis. If I gossip about other people, if I criticize others, if I hate other people, if I complain about others, what else? If I try to control others, as you mentioned, if I always want to impose my viewpoint, if I always tell that others are wrong, that is a big sign that I'm wrong and I'm not aware of. What else?
Everything's negative.
Everything is negative, but what else? We don't know what everything is.
I think where you are aggressive.
Jealous, we saw that in the previous one. If I'm jealous, if I'm envy, if I'm prepotent, if I'm impatient,
Selfish.
if I'm selfish, yes,
A lot of selfish.
yes, a lot. The excess of vanity, correct? Yeah. And now, what are aspects in our behavior, because we are not all to shadow, which kind of aspects we have already of light? Even if it's tiny bit. What are our aspects of healthy parts in us? What are the good aspects that we already conquered? Respect.
Things where you try to control yourself, not the others.
When we choose to self-control and let others be who they are, exactly following what Jesus did more than 2,000 years with us.
Sometimes you catch yourself indirectly, you manipulate, you say things you didn't should be saying, and that one say, oh, let me stop, that's not the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I think so that moment you are following the law of God and you try to do your best. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you realize, okay, I have this weak point, I want to work on that. It's difficult for me, but I will try.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way.
Correct. Maybe we may realize that I'm very negative through self-awareness, and if that is the case, I will choose to take responsibility and to train myself on a daily basis to be more optimistic, more realistic according to the natural laws within myself in relation to others, in relation to situations. And I may even challenge myself in order to understand people are as they are, situations are as they are, and I am as I am, and I'm free to change despite the others not. Gratitude, that's well. Gratitude, more gratitude, what else? More patient. Are we training patient? Are we better than we started?
Lots. It's every years. We've lived in society, family, parents, friends.
They're good instruments of God. They're fine instruments to boost the best in us.
Good exercise. Take out the best.
To boost the best out of us. What else? Forgiveness. Are we trying to be more forgiving? It's quite convincing.
It's quite convincing.
We have tried.
We have tried, okay. Good. We carry on trying. Because really we want and choose to be better beings. And why are we doing that? Because we want to be pleased by others? We want to be accepted by others?
No.
No, because we choose to be better with ourselves. We want to be more forgiving. We want to be more tolerant. We want to be more exercise the goodness within, which all these aspects in summary is part of training and developing the real love within.
And you realize when you go that path, it's making good for your spiritual and emotional life.
Of course.
You
But
feel
that's
peace when
yeah.
you
Oh, that's a
not
good
do
one.
anyone.
That's we live in peace, yes.
Peace,
And then
some
people
kind
say-
of they say, okay, it's all right, all right.
And then people say that no one can be at peace on earth. Such a turbulence. Lie. We can be in peace when we follow God's laws within. And they are within, not without. If we choose to follow according, we have a relative peace here on earth. Yes, what else?
To help each other.
To help each other. Be willing to cooperate. To be a collaborator and not a disturbant. That again, we activate that divine aspect in us, which empowers us. Which empowers us.
I think, sorry, just concluding, these days have these aspects in your personality. It's very difficult because outside the people, they clap the people as your commander orders, do everything different the rules go, selfish, people like that. When you do different, acting different, you are different.
Yes, and that is exactly what we came to do. We didn't come back to earth to do what everybody does.
Yeah.
We came back as the students and learners of Jesus to do what he aims us to do. Love one another. That is what we are all here.
Yeah.
And we should honor that position and not be fearful. So we're coming to the end today in our study. And as we always conclude, let's give thanks to God for his infinite love and mercy towards every and each one of us. Ourselves and all of those in the spirit who are also studying with us. We are divine beings in essence. We all can choose as long as we choose to invest, to put efforts into it. To be willing to forgive, to be willing to respect, to be willing to exercise tolerance. Doesn't matter what other people do to us. We are all children of God and all imperfect, perfecting ourselves. What matters is that we choose to advance, to progress in goodness within. And we all can do that because we all have been created by God who is love and loves us as we are. May the blessings of Jesus follow up on each and every one of us. Bless us with your light, your peace and love. And may we freely choose in this time to listen to your message, to follow you in the pathway of light and love. Today, tomorrow, and always. So be it.